Hello again, welcome back to Bookish Brits. My name is Michelle. It occurred to me that there's always some books that get missed out somehow, and today I would like to talk to you about 3 of the books that I've read this year and really loved but have never written reviews for. So the first book that I'd like to talk to you about today is Revolution by Jennifer Donnelly. This is a book that was published a few years ago and I heard really great things about, but it was never one that I was that keen to pick up. It's quite a thick book. Sometimes I get put off by chunky books, and this one is kept being called a historical book, and historical books are traditionally not books that I get along very well with, but I can't remember exactly what made me pick this book up, but I'm so glad that I did. It really doesn't, once you start reading, there are large sections of history within the book, but it doesn't, like the general writing style and tone of the book feels very contemporary. It's the story of Andy, a high school student she's not getting along very well. Her brother's died recently. She's not coping very well with that. Her big obsession, the thing that keeps her going at the moment, is playing music. So during the course of one of the school holidays, she gets shipped off with her estranged father to France, and there she finds a guitar case and unravels some mysteries surrounding some of the work that her father is doing on the French Revolution. And the thing that I really loved about this book is how it is the way Jennifer Donnelly has woven the music and history together. I really loved this book. As soon as I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. My only real quibble with the book happens towards the end. It really ties these 2 stories together, this, thing that happens at the end, but it wasn't my favorite. But still, I loved the story, I loved the characters, I loved all of the detail of the French Revolution and of music. I thought it was really interesting. The second book that I really loved this year and have never written a review about is Silent Saturday by Helen Grant. Now this is the first book in the Forbidden Spaces series, and it was so good. It was so good. I love this cover as well, with this very shiny embossing there on the cover. The prologue tells the story of a Flemish legend, and I love having this different perspective. I feel like a lot of the books that I'm reading lately center around American teenagers or English teenagers, and I very rarely see a different perspective. So that was one of the things that really attracted me to Silent Saturday. It's the story of 2 people, I think her name Veerley, teenage girl, and Chris, a boy that she used to know but no longer really knows. They sort of reconnect 10 years after a very traumatic event occurs, and Chris actually initiates Veerley into this secret society. The writing style and the fluidity of the story really pushed me into seeing things from Veerley's perspective, and I just went with everything. You can tell there's a little bit of tension between Veerley and Chris, which I loved, but that isn't the main focus of the story. There's also there are people in this secret society who are going missing, and there's a lot of tension in that way as Virley and Chris put themselves into these dangerous situations as they try to work out what's happening and who's behind these missing people. It's really, really good. I loved the pacing of the story. I loved the characters, I loved the setting, and I also really love that it is the first book in a new series, so one to look out for. The third book that I'd like to talk to you about, this isn't the final cover, but it's All the Truth That's in Me by Julie Berry. This book was published this year in August by Templar, and it was really, really good. I had no idea what I was getting into when I first started this book, but the voice was amazing. It doesn't say specifically when it's set, and I'm not very good with historical time periods, but it feels quite long time ago, with new settlers and that sort of thing. It's the story of Judith, a girl who's been through some traumatic event in which her best friend dies and she is left without a tongue. So she has she cannot speak, and within her community and within her own family, Judith is treated really badly. She becomes a pariah in this little village that she lives in. Nobody speaks to her, nobody's very nice to her. She lives quite the lonely existence, and the thing that I really, really loved, and it's what really grabbed me, aside from the wonderful strength of voice and character from Judith herself, is her feelings for Lucas, this boy that she's had a crush on since forever. And a lot of the first 3/4 of the book, I would say, there's so much longing and unrequited feelings that it just felt so tragic and a little bit angsty. But there's also there are things that occur within the book that forces Judith to either lay down and give up, or to stand up and react to the way in which she's been treated, to stand up for her own feelings, her own opinions and thoughts. And it's I really loved Judith's story. I was cheering for her from the very first moment, and well, I thought the final 1/4 of the book lacked some of the strong emotion from the first part of the book. I still thought it was amazing, and I'll put a picture on the somewhere on here about the original covers. Those are the 3 books that I wanted to talk to you today. I loved each one of them for their own reasons, and I feel really happy that I've been able to share some of my thoughts on those books with you. Are there any books that you read this year that you haven't shouted to the rooftops about? Have you read any of these 3 books? What did you think? Let me know in comments, and thank you.